My name is Jess Taylor. I'm originally from South Florida, and I've lived there up until I was 19 years old. My family and I decided to make the move to Nashville in April of last year. So I've been here a little over a year. And, I was raised on country music. I've always loved country music, which is funny because I've always lived in the city by a beach. There's Kenny Chesney and Zach Brown band, but I've always loved country music. And so that's what I was raised on. That's what I was raised listening to. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do country music. So when I moved up here, you know, I was introduced to a lot of really cool, different genres, different styles of music. And it definitely influenced my music a little bit, which is really cool because I had always listened to like mainstream country music, and just to be able to listen to different artists, especially amazing singer-songwriters up here, was just really cool. And it definitely influenced my music. So I moved up here with my family last year to just further pursue my dream of singing and songwriting and playing out and just doing music. That's my passion. That's what I want to do. Once you start branching out a little bit and going to the songwriter rounds and going to like the different events that Nashville has, they don't play country music outside of Broadway, which is so funny to me because I'm like, I thought Nashville was Country Music City, USA, but it has turned into Music City, USA, which is really awesome. Everybody can move up here if they're a musician and just get amazing opportunities. Well, like I said, I grew up listening to country music. So, uh, like the women of country music have always been a big inspiration. Loretta Lynn is one of my favorites, still all-time favorite musicians of all time. But I grew up listening to Martina and Faith and all of them. And Miranda Lambert is probably the biggest inspiration, just because she's such an amazing artist, but she also doesn't take anything from anyone. She's herself. She does it her way. It's her way or the highway. And she just has her own sound. She's really awesome. She's amazing. And so she's definitely my biggest inspiration. But as of late, I've been naming a couple different bands as an inspiration for my new sound. And one of those bands would be the Civil Wars. And they have just this really awesome, dark kind of sound to them, which kind of sounds weird, but it's none of their, not none, but most of their lyrics aren't like dark, but it's just they have this aura and this feel to them that's just so cool. And I really like the folkiness. That's what I'm trying to go more alt country, more folky. And they just have this awesome folkiness. And then Mumford and Sons is a really big inspiration to me. The Abbott Brothers, just a bunch of different bands that I had never really heard of before I moved up here. And now that I moved up here and I'm listening to them, I'm like, this is what I want for my music. This is what I want it to sound like. I don't want it to be mainstream. I want it to be different. And there's this really cool radio station up here called Lightning 100, who I've been listening to nonstop since I moved up here, because they have just different local artists that they play, but they also have, I found Jason Isbell through them. And he is definitely a really big songwriting inspiration to me, because his lyrics are just amazing. Yeah, so Band Twango is a company based out of Nashville who does fan funding campaigns for artists. And I started working with them a couple months ago. We had just started planning out my campaign and trying to figure out how I could raise money, because the last time I put out music, I was 16 years old. And it was, it was who I was when I was 16. And it was just, very sweet and simple and very mainstream country is what I would call it. But like I've said, I've changed a lot in the past 5 years. So with this new sound, I definitely think that now is the perfect time to release some new stuff after not having anything out since I was 16 years old. I decided that I would reach out to Band Twango and talk to them, see what their opinions were. And we decided, as well as my parents, this was like a group effort. There were a lot of people involved in this decision. But I decided I'm going to release a single, a bonus track. I'm going to do a music video for my single. I'm going to redo my website. And I'm basically going to rebrand myself and my music, my image. So I started working with Bandwango to kind of help me build a campaign to raise money for that, because it's not cheap being a musician. It is very expensive. So I just wanted to raise the money, to just put out some new stuff, and I'm really excited about it because I have some really cool songs that I've just been writing, and I've been writing with really awesome people up in Nashville. I started co-writing in Florida, but just the amount of talent up in Nashville is crazy, and there's always people who want to co-write, and it's really cool. So I've gotten some really cool songs out of it. It's funny because people ask me that all the time. I I don't want to put myself into a specific genre or category because I feel like that's restricting to some extent. But if I had to put myself into a genre, I would say it's alt country, even maybe Americana. And I say alt country because I'm a big listener of Spotify. Like Spotify is my go-to to get new music. And so when I was scrolling through some of the playlists, I saw an alt country playlist, and they had people like Lucy Silvis on there. And she actually, I didn't mention her, but she's a really big inspiration too. And they just had some really cool artists on there. But I did see the alt country Spotify playlist on there, so I'm like, actually, that's a pretty good subgenre to put myself in. So if I had to say anything, I would say alt country, alternative country. It's called Crooked Roots. So I wrote this song with my friends Josh Matheny and Whitney Dahlstrom up here. And I actually really, really like this song because at first, like, I went into the write, and Josh is a published writer. So it was kind of like, man, I'm going to write with this person who has written like all these amazing songs, and so I wanted to go in with a really cool different idea, and for some reason I came up with the hook Crooked Roots. And so I was thinking, kind of for the storyline, I was thinking, it could be this guy who pretends to be this, perfect guy, but underneath he has just all this baggage and crooked roots. But the funny thing is when I took it to Josh and Whitney, they both kind of wanted to go in a different direction. They were like, well, why don't we do it like this? So how it ended up working out, we teamed up and kind of collaborated on this idea that he would just be this bad boy. Everybody knew he was a bad boy. And this girl moves to town. Everybody tells her to stay away. She doesn't. She ends up falling for him. And it just talks about how she knows that he's bad for her, but she doesn't care. And she gets tangled, in his crooked roots. I have some really cool incentives that I came up with the Bandwango team. Anywhere from like digital download of Crooked Roots. And then I'm also part of the funds are going to be going towards production or CD production. So like I'm going to get some CDs, actual physical copies made. So, some people will get physical copies of it, signed copies. And I kind of came up with this cool idea. When I was first starting out as a songwriter, I had a songwriting book. So I would always write down my songs in there. And in high school, one day I just came up with a song idea. It's funny, it was my first single that I ever released. It's called Do You Feel It Too? And I came up with the idea in my Algebra 2 class. And so I started writing it down on this piece of paper, and I just, for some reason, I didn't make any mistakes, and it just looked perfect, and it was this awesome looking lyric sheet. And so I was like, from then on, I was like, I need to save this because I think it'd be so cool to give people like lyric sheets. So that's one of the incentives for Crooked Roots. It would be a lyric sheet of that. And then I also have a personalized YouTube shout out and a cover video of their choice. So if they wanted to hear me sing, some Loretta Lynn, I would do that for sure. And then when it comes to the more generous donors, there's a Skype session that you get to have with me, and it's a 30-minute one-on-one where you can just ask me anything you want to know about me and my music. And then it goes all the way up to getting to go to the studio with me when I record my new songs. all the way up to for a $5,000 donation. I will go anywhere inside or outside of Nashville, up to 100 miles outside of Nashville, and I'll do a private house concert for you and 100 friends. Yeah, absolutely. So when I moved up here, it was kind of an adjustment. You know, it took me a little while to just get used to being in a new state with different people, a new job, all this stuff, and I kind of lost a little bit of focus. But my advice is to never give up. Like, it took me a little bit to adjust, but there came a point where I felt empty because I wasn't doing much with my music, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I feel empty. I need my music. So my advice would just be like, never ever give up, never lose focus, because there's always going to be distractions, but you can't let them get in the way. And another thing I would say is, be yourself in your music. Don't necessarily try and go for what's being played on the radio right now. You know, if that's not your sound, don't try and conform to that, because it's going to sound more genuine and more authentic if it comes from your heart and if it's what you really want to do. So I would just say completely be yourself when it comes to your music. Yeah, thank you guys so much for everyone who has donated to my campaign. It really means so much to me. It is such a blessing, all of the support that I have from my fans and people who go to my shows and comment on my Facebook Live videos. It really means a lot to me. So I just want to thank all my fans so much for just being there for me throughout every step of my journey. I do have a website. It's jesstaylormusic.com. It is going to be under construction, hopefully within the next couple months after my campaign is done. But you can also, I have a Facebook fan page. If you just look up Jess Taylor Music, I'm the one with the little blue check mark next to my name. And then Twitter is all of my handles are the same. It's Jess Taylor Music, except for Twitter, it's Jess Tay Music. So you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, all that fun stuff.